Hi everyone, this is Dr. Nitin Chhoda and welcome to this episode of Ignition Time. Thank you so much everyone for being a viewer. Thank you so much for being a subscriber. I want you to know that I greatly appreciate you and I appreciate you being a member of our community. I'm going to talk to you about a very interesting, very impressive congressman. His name is David Madison Cawthorn. He's a 25-year-old congressman. Yep, he's 25 years old. He's a 25-year-old Republican congressman from North Carolina, and he was elected in 2020. In 2014, okay, when he was 18 years old, he was injured in a car accident that left him partially paralyzed from the waist down, and he now uses a wheelchair. Now, the reason I wanted to highlight Congressman Cawthorn, and by the way, again, he's 25 years old, blows my mind. I'm 42 years old. I a 25-year-old congressman. It's incredible. I'm hoping that my 5-year-old son or my 2-year-old daughter become a congressman or a senator or a congresswoman or a senator by the time they're in their mid-20s. But boy, oh boy, wouldn't that be something? But I want to highlight an interview, folks. I want to highlight an interview that Madison Cawthorn did, where he was specifically asked about why he objected to the election results, and had he done any research, and what his position was, and in other words, what was his position and what did he read in the Constitution that made him want to challenge the results. So very interesting what he said and what he did not say. He was specifically asked, have you done any research as to the challenging the election results? And I'll let you be the judge, and I'll let you decide whether he actually did any research or not before taking on a position. Let's take a look at this interview, and I'm going to show you the interview. I'll provide you with a link to the entire interview in the description section below, so you can check out the entire interview on your own if you want to. But again, what you're about to see is an interview with a 25-year-old congressman from North Carolina. He was just elected in 2020. He objected to the certification of the Electoral College results. And what you're about to see is a very interesting interview. You can decide whether he walked things back or not, whether he answered the questions or not. Let's take a look at this together. Really fascinating stuff.
The letter says that you aim to, quote, rise above the partisan fray. Yet you are one of 138 Republicans who voted to decertify the election results. You actually did that even after the January 6 riots. So how does that help you reaching your goal of reaching across the aisle and working with the Biden administration?
Well, I'll tell you, as despicable as the events on January 6th were, it didn't actually affect my thought process on objecting to the election. You see, I wasn't objecting to President Biden himself, and I wasn't doing it on behalf of President Trump. I was doing it on behalf of the Constitution. I think in six key swing states, particularly in Wisconsin, you can see that the state legislature, who is the sole body that is supposed to dictate the law that circumvents and is around all of our election laws, was circumvented. They subverted the state legislatures there, and I believe that's a constitutional infraction.
Okay, so let's talk about this. Let's unpack that. Can you just share some specific examples of election fraud? What are some specific examples that informed this bold decision, this audacious decision, even after the riots, to decertify the results? You must have seen some concrete evidence.
Well, Pam, the things that I was not objecting to the election on behalf of was things like Dominion voting machines changing ballots, or these U-Haul trucks pulling up filled with ballots for Joe Biden as president. The thing I was objecting for is things like, like I said, in the state of Wisconsin, particularly in the town of Madison, there was an appointed official in that town who actually went against the will of the state legislature and created ballot drop boxes, which is basically ballot harvesting that was happening in the parks.
Folks, so far the interview seems fairly conventional, but check out the rest of it. It starts to get really interesting from here.
It was all litigated. You know that the Trump campaign litigated all of this, more than 60 cases, and they lost. Either the cases were dismissed, the Trump campaign withdrew, or they never brought a case because they didn't have the evidence to back it up.
Indeed, I believe specifically, and this is the one that I debated on behalf of on the House floor, in Wisconsin, that was never heard because they dismissed it because of standing. Now, I don't believe that is concrete enough of a...
Now, folks, this is something that I find really interesting. You have a congressman from North Carolina objecting to state certified results in Wisconsin. And by the way, it was similar with Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz is from Florida. Excuse me, Ted Cruz is from Texas, I beg your pardon. And he objected to the results in Pennsylvania. Super, super interesting what's going on here. Not to mention Josh Hawley from Missouri, who also objected to Pennsylvania. So super interesting that they should take positions about the state results in other states and not their own state. They don't have a problem with what's going on in their own state, as you're about to see. Super interesting.
There were
way
three Trump
to say
appointments. Okay, so you have
dismisses it.
Wisconsin, but you ended up not actually voting against Wisconsin. It was just Arizona and Pennsylvania because you didn't have the Senate votes. But three Trump-appointed judges actually threw out these cases because of merit. It was because of merit. There were three Trump-appointed judges out of all of these judges and the more than 60 cases that were tossed out. And you keep talking about Wisconsin. I'm still not hearing any specific examples of fraud. If you would, just tell us, what are the specific examples you saw of fraud? Because when you think of fraud, you think of a vote, you're slipping one past the election official, or a vote was stolen, somehow it didn't count. Did you see that specifically?
No, Pam, and like I said, that's
So
not
you
the
didn't.
reason I
He just said he has not seen any specific examples of election shenanigans, but he did stand up and object to the Electoral College certification process. So
tested the election.
Hold on. So you wanted to throw out millions of votes without actually seeing any concrete evidence of fraud? Because that's what you were doing when you were contesting the election. The intent there was throwing out millions of votes.
Well, I disagree with you on that point. That was not my intent. My intent was to hold up the Constitution, and setting up ballot drop boxes, which is essentially ballot harvesting in Wisconsin, is unconstitutional because the state legislature said they didn't want that.
So you know more than the judge, the Trump-appointed judge, who actually looked at that case before the election and dismissed the Trump campaign's argument that drop boxes are unconstitutional. And if you would you point to me and where in the Constitution it says that drop boxes are unconstitutional? I don't recall seeing that in the Constitution.
No, so the way that I believe it was unconstitutional is
So now notice that he didn't answer the question, and he said the way I believe it was unconstitutional. That's interesting. A very interesting response. And again, you can be the judge as to whether, as to what's going on here. But notice the words. The way I believe it was unconstitutional was. I mean, you've got to read the Constitution if you're a congressman, if you're a senator, right? But let's listen to the rest of it. This is it's an unbelievable interview, folks. Unbelievable. So, folks, there we go. I thought that it was pausing. Let me resume here. Just a moment.
So you're making an obscure case on this. Other constitutional experts say, look, what this says right here, this Article 2 of the Constitution says that the
Important question here, is this constitutional? I think that is a question we need to ask ourselves. Is this constitutional? What was the objection based on the Constitution? We're looking at the Constitution here.
legislature can decide what dictates the electors. And they did decide before this election. The states did decide that the plurality of the vote would dictate who the electors are. So that did actually happen. And I just want to also ask you, what sort of research did you put in? What kind of work?
So, folks, let me know in your own words, how do you think this interview is going so far for Madison Cawthorn? Let me know in the comment section how you think the interview is going so far for this 25-year-old congressman. Again, super impressive to overcome the kinds of challenges he did. But again, I'm just judging this interview based on its merits, okay? So I don't think it's going very well. Let me know what you think.
You put in before you decided to make this objection. I'm just curious what you read. Did you actually go to any of the states to look at the voter fraud? What kind of research did you put into this?
No, so we hired 3 constitutional lawyers who looked into this for our campaign, and then the findings that we had is that, as you said, I believe in the reading the Constitution through the prism of original intent.
He said, I believe reading the Constitution through the prism of original intent. What does that mean? Reading the Constitution through the prism of original intent. So, guys, the choice of words being used by Madison Cawthorn is again interesting, but he's not answering the question, folks. He is not answering the question.
I believe the original intent of the framers of the Constitution was to make sure that the federal government can't exercise overreach and go into these states and dictate our laws of how to run elections.
So do you think the intent, too, was to throw out millions of votes because of a suspicion, not even concrete evidence, because of evidence, I should say, just because of a suspicion? Do you think that that was what our founders intended?
Well, we do have concrete evidence that there were ballot drop boxes inside of Wisconsin. I don't have the right pages on.
Just because the ballot drop boxes were there does not mean that they were illegal or unconstitutional, because a judge said so. So this is interesting, folks. If a judge says something is legal, you can't just say it's illegal and unconstitutional just because you think it is. That's wrong. That's misinformation. This is classic misinformation, and what we are seeing is misinformation.
But I would be happy to send that to you.
Right, but I'm still curious, because I'm still confused on the unconstitutionality of drop boxes, because a Trump-appointed judge dismissed that argument before the election. But if you would just answer my question, so you said you had 3 constitutional lawyers. What other work did you put in to actually looking at whether there was fraud in this past election? Because as you know, Congressman, and you knew coming on the show, look, you were spouting some really inflammatory claims after the election and before the January 6th riot, okay? You voted even after the riot to decertify results, millions of votes. So I'm just wondering, what kind of work did you put into making sure you were rock solid before making those claims and deciding to do that?
Yes, ma'am. So mainly it was going through having these constitutional lawyers look into the state of Wisconsin, the people that were actually supposed to try the case, and then looking at their evidence, and we presented that to the American people. A significant portion of the American people agreed with it. I agreed with it myself, and I believe it was a constitutional infraction, and so that's why I opposed the election. Now, you keep bringing up that I did it even after the January 6th insurrection, which again I think is despicable, and I absolutely condemn. But the people who changed their vote because of that, I believe they were doing it because of political expedience, either if they were going to contest or if they weren't going to contest. The actions of January 6th do not change what happened in the November election, and I believe what happened in Wisconsin was unconstitutional.
Okay, so you keep focusing on Wisconsin, but there were several battleground states that you contested to, that you talked about. There were several that President Trump had lost. So it's interesting you're focusing on Wisconsin, but would you apply the same issues you had with these battleground states to your own state of North Carolina? Because North Carolina also changed a lot of the rules, even after voters had started voting. Why didn't you have concerns about your own home state of North Carolina?
Well, you know what, Pam, I'm actually not.
Folks, I just want to be clear. This congressman, he's 25 years old. He is from the state of North Carolina. He didn't object to the results in North Carolina, but he objected to the results in Wisconsin because some constitutional lawyers said so, is basically what I'm interpreting. But he had not himself seen any evidence of what he's talking about. And he himself didn't provide us with a clear answer of judges' rulings in the state of Wisconsin. Ooh, wow. If this isn't surprising you folks, this is interesting.
Aware of the laws that were changed inside of North Carolina. I believe we had a very safe and a very secure election here.
He said, I believe we had a very safe and a very secure election here. So you believe that the state of North Carolina, which by the way, went a certain way, was acceptable, and therefore it was safe and secure. But the state of Wisconsin, which was a very, 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 crucial state, because it didn't go a certain way or because it went a certain way, you believe that it was unconstitutional, even though you haven't done any research and haven't seen the evidence, because you're not providing her with the straight answer to that question.
There were several rules.
There's no reason to contest that.
Yeah, there were several rules, one of which is to...
He said there was no reason to contest that, and there were many reasons to contest it. If you hold both the states through the same prism, these are the words that Madison Cawthorn used.
extend when the mail-in ballots could arrive, I believe by around 7 days. That was one, and there were a couple of others as well that were changed even after people started voting. So I'm just wondering, if you're so concerned about these rules being changed with the election, why wouldn't you focus on your own home state of North Carolina? I mean, you're telling me that your concern really is about election integrity, not politics, not the results of the election, right?
That is absolutely correct. I didn't do this for any one man or against any one man.
Okay. So North Carolina, though, the same issues you've had and you've expressed about the battleground states, those are the same issues that are in your own state of North Carolina. And North Carolina actually did have mail-in ballot fraud in 2018. So you're not concerned about your home state and whether you were duly elected by your own standards?
Well, I'll tell you, because of the mail-in ballot fraud that happened in the midterms here in 2018, I believe our election integrity standards here in North Carolina are some of the greatest in the country. I think they should apply this metric all over the country, but that's just my opinion.
It's pretty classical. Politicians take a negative and try to spin it into a positive. So what he's saying is, because there was some shenanigans in 2018, therefore 2018 was secure in North Carolina. That is basically what Congressman Cawthorn is saying.
So the Democratic-led governor's
office. The rules that you're talking about that were changed.
Okay, so the Democratic governor and the Democratic-led election board, they all they turned everything around in terms of the concerns about election fraud in North Carolina.
I believe they did. Yes, the election that was actually overturned was a Republican one in 2018.
No, what I'm saying is, after that, there was a Democratic governor, a Democratic election board. You're saying they've turned things around, that things are safer in North Carolina now. So I'm just saying, so you're giving the Democrats credit then for making voting safer in your state. And so that's why you're not worried.
Absolutely. I think our election board here in North Carolina is second to none. I voted for a different person for governor, but I will say that Roy Cooper here in North Carolina did make sure we had a safe and secure election. So when I contested to the election, that was within the constitutional guidelines that the framers had set up. But after I've done that and the electors and the delegates from each state elected Joe Biden as our president, I respect the office. He is my president, and I want to work with him to make sure that we can bring some meaningful change to the American people, although I think he will disagree with most of my policies.
And that's okay. Disagreement of policies is normal. But can you now say that the election was not stolen, that it wasn't a fraudulent election?
This is an important question, and it was an important answer.
Yes, I think I would say that the election was not fraudulent. The Constitution allowed for us to be able to push back as much as we could, and I did that to the amount of the constitutional limits that I had at my disposal. So now I would say that Joseph R. Biden is our president.
And you have no regrets?
No, I do not have any regrets.
I thought that last segment also was super interesting. The young congressman, the 25-year-old congressman from North Carolina, said that he had no regrets. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, folks. And as I was recording this, as I was doing this for our community, I do have some breaking news, because this information just came in and it has significant implications for the future of our country. This is breaking news from Ignition Time. So, folks, I can now confirm that Janet Yellen has indeed been nominated by the United States Senate. 84 votes for, 15 against, and she is now the 78th U.S. Treasury Secretary of the United States of America. Janet Yellen is now the U.S. Treasury Secretary. She has been confirmed after the Defense Director and the Director of National Intelligence. So that indeed has happened, and that is super important news, everyone. And also, Senator Rob Portman said that he's not going to be running for re-election in 2022, and he could, because he's not running for re-election, he could potentially be open. You never know, to convicting Trump, because he's not concerned about re-election. So that's interesting. And also, in brand new information, folks, this is also some brand new information that's come in about the status of the stimulus negotiations. I have a new alert for you there as well. So, folks, this right here is brand new information. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell was asked where he and the Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer are, as far as ongoing negotiations on the organizing resolution is concerned. In other words, how they share power. And John Bresnahan from Punchbowl News reported that they were getting close. Folks, we live in very, very, very unusual times, and I'm hoping that we can put some of the craziness behind us, because it has been a very, very, very stressful 2020, and I'm hoping that 2021 is less stressful. So that was it, everybody. I hope you learned something new. I'm going to leave you with some important messages. If you learned something new, please give me a like. I'm going to be releasing an important video about how reconciliation works and a plan B strategy of reconciliation that Democrats are going to pursue. So I'm going to be releasing that. Also, I'm going to release a very important video about the highlights, the two things that really jumped out at me from President Biden's comments today as far as stimulus is concerned. He said two things that were really, really, really crucial. So I'll be covering those in a video shortly. I'll leave you with some important trivia right now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'm looking forward to seeing you soon. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. My name is Dr. Nitin Chhoda with Ignition Time. If you don't know anything about me, check out my video. You'll learn more about who I am, what my journey has been like, and why you should listen to me. This channel, the Ignition Time channel, is about the country, it's about the economy, and it's about your money. I try and bring you important news every single day, news that will help you make the right decisions. I want you to be happy. I want us to be in party mode. At some point, when we're past all this stimulus stuff and the unemployment stuff, I want it to be raining money. Well, seriously, I want to teach you how to make money. I want to teach you how to save money, and I'm going to teach you how to invest money. And you can do that when you understand how politics works. I'll help you understand what's going on in the complex world of politics. What's going on with President Biden? What's going on with House Speaker Pelosi? What's going on with the Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer? There he is. What's going on with the Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell? That's interesting to call him Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell. There he is. I'll help you understand what's going on in the complex world of politics, how it affects the country, and by extension, how it affects your money. Remember, we release videos every single day, and I'm asking you to subscribe to our channel. Please click like, please subscribe, please enable notifications. I would really appreciate that. The name of our channel is Ignition Time. I would really appreciate if you do that. Please share this video with just 2 friends or family members. That's 2 friends or family members. You'll find a link to all of our resources in the description section below. So make sure you check out the description section below. You can follow us on Instagram. Our Instagram handle is ignition_time. Our Instagram community is growing very rapidly. And you can also follow us on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is also ignition_time. That's ignition_time. In fact, right here, you'll see me on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter. You'll learn in real time what I'm reading, what I'm retweeting. Become a part of our growing Twitter community. Speaking of community, please comment below and engage with our community. We are a growing, bipartisan, respectful community. As always, once again, you'll get the link to all of our resources in the description section below. Please click like, please subscribe, please enable notifications. That tells a YouTube algorithm that you found this video helpful. I really appreciate you watching. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode of Ignition Time. Thanks. Bye.